And when it comes to the making of Blade, there's so many things that make it so strong. And one of the first things, an easy thing I want to get into about what makes it a strong picture, is storytelling through music. I believe it was the music supervisor, but he was talking about how the music in Blade shifts from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie. And if you watch that blood rave sequence, yeah, we got a lot of great techno music. It's really exciting. But there's even the great techno music that happens when Blade shows up. And when Blade shows up, you see the way it's photographed. Blade is silent, he doesn't say anything. His mere presence intimidates the rest of the vampires. But when it comes to the music, Blade gets into this opening action sequence where he's slicing and dicing everyone left and right. And that great track is playing underneath the scene. And, sonically, musically, we are being communicated something here, and that this is Blade in his comfort zone. This is Blade on a regular daily basis. This is what he does. And if you'll notice, for the rest of the movie until the end, every time Blade's in an action scene, we don't get techno music. We have its dramatic score. When Blade, enters the room that has the pages of the Book of Erebus, and he's looking at all of the pages and glass. Vampires surround him, and we do get a little action scene, but the music the beautiful music by Mark Isham, it's not played for action, it's played for drama and mystery and the epicness of what's being hinted at. This is an action scene, but the music is not saying dun 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 dun, because we're part of the story now. We're building into everything that's going on, because Blade is in the course of transformation as well. Throughout the course of the movie, we learn Blade's story, that he lost his mother at birth and that he grew up homeless on the streets feeding on homeless people. And it was Whistler who rescued him from a life of homelessness. And Whistler has his own story of losing his whole family to vampires, and thus, the origin of Blade's hate for vampires is born in this very untold gap of storyline. That he takes care of this beautiful pot plant, but after the death of Whistler, you see him cutting the roots. Now that we got the symbolism of removing the roots, we're seeing the whole life of Blade come to a screeching halt at the loss of both parents. He had a mother he lost at birth, and he loses his father figure, essentially, in the third act of this movie. And so symbolically, he's cutting the roots. He goes all out and he fights with emotion. And Mark Isham's music is so powerful and potent with emotion as he's shooting down all these guards who are protecting, Deacon Frost, our bad guy.
Please, I just work for them.
The music is telling the story of this character. We're not hearing techno music because it's an action sequence. It's a mistake to think that because you're watching an action movie and fun music is playing, that it's just playing for your benefit as the audience member. You might have that benefit as an audience member, but at least in Blade in particular, the music is telling the emotional story of Blade, because Blade as a character and as the film is cut from the same cloth as Batman, Michael Keaton's Batman from 1989 and Batman Returns, where Tim Burton had the philosophy that this guy is going to dress up as a bat and he's going to intimidate people. He's not going to be a very talkative guy. He's not going to be walking around having speeches about himself. And Blade is cut from that same cloth. He talks very little. When he speaks, it's because he has something to say. That's the kind of person Blade is. The vampires kidnap Blade and they use him for their torture device that's meant to bring out the blood god, and it's an amazing action sequence at the end. Karen ends up freeing Blade from the torture device, but not before he loses so much blood. And the only way for Blade to come back and save the day is if he drinks some blood. He has no serum, no Whistler to give him serum. All he has is his friend who's willing to sacrifice herself to save him. And she says, just drink my blood. It's the only thing that's going to get us out of this situation. is if you drink my blood. And in essence, she's what she had asked of him in an earlier scene, to accept himself, which he completely rejected with anger. And when he drinks her blood, the sequence is, the music again from Mark Isham is just pounding. It's like the heart pounding of a heartbeat. And it's almost tribal. It's so crazy. You see him first, it's like, it's like I'm drinking water, or it's like I've been drowning and I'm breathing for the first time. And she tells him not to stop, and it's almost sexual. Blade is such a repressed person in this movie. He's so repressed and has so much pain. And by the end of the sequence, when he finally drinks enough blood, he has just this like cathartic and sexual kind of release from it. And he's renewed in a brand new kind of way. Blade, having drunken blood and having gotten over this part of himself, he has a power that he's never had before, drinking actual blood. And when he comes down to take down the bad guys, that's when the techno music comes back in. Because Blade is now fully powered, and he's finally kind of, even though he only just drank blood, but he's done something that he's resisted since he was a child. And having drank blood, what Joseph Campbell would call, he's now the master of two worlds. The world that he was the master of before, and this thing that he was afraid of for the entire movie, he's now got both going on. And so fully renewed, fully repowered, and fully free to kill vampires as he likes to do, that's when the techno music comes back. And the music tells that part of the story of now Blade's back better than ever. He's going to hit harder than ever. And the filmmaking communicates that when, after all the fighting is done and he's gotten to the very last two bad guys, he pulls a sword out of a wall and does this amazing slice, and we get that iconic shot of the camera pushing up to him with the sword, slicing the guys and putting the sword down and looking anime cool. You know what I mean? That iconic shot. But that filmmaking and the music and the performance communicates that Blade has returned. The Blade from the opening sequence of the movie has returned, but better than ever, because he's now renewed and had some resolution to his suffering. That's what makes Blade a great character, is that he is a man suffering on the inside. And it took the help of a friend and the sacrifice of a friend for him to be comfortable with who he is on the inside. And at the very end of the movie, after defeating Deacon Frost, he's recommitted to his work, but now refreshed, now revitalized, and now with a cleaner sense of his purpose. And it's cleaner because he now accepts himself. And the music communicates that journey. Every part of telling a story is about telling that one story. It's the story of Blade, a man who was uncomfortable with himself and had to come to terms with the things he didn't like about himself. And once he did that, he could truly be the superior Blade, the best version of himself that he could possibly be.